All right, everyone. Welcome back to the Growth, Grit, and Grace podcast. Today, I have an amazing guest, Jesi Carroll, who is a former coach and now just soul connection, soul sister that I absolutely love and adore. So happy she's here with us today.
Oh, thank you for having me. That's so fun. So excited.
Yes. So, I mean, I know you mostly as a life coach and mentor, but I know you've been really expanding. Do you want to just give a brief overview of just kind of where you're at currently?
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because I've had I've had a lot of people in my world ask me, "Where are you?" Like I don't really see you anymore. Like, what are you doing now? And I think it's because there's just been just so many shifts in my world. I think we can all kind of relate to that. But this last year, I'll kind of start there
Okay.
where I defined myself as a life coach for many years. I mean, over a decade, I was mentoring, I was coaching, and even worked up to the point where I got to then work for Tony Robbins, Dean Graziosi. And from there, I was being asked to, step into a coaching and like lead facilitator role in some other companies simultaneously. So I just was really, I went from my biggest goal was to leave my 9 to 5 and work as a coach full time. And all of a sudden to being like, I don't feel like I have my freedom anymore because I got the thing that I wanted. And it's not that I didn't love what I did. It was nothing but an honor to help support people. But what started to happen is I started to lose a sense of myself. I stopped asking the bigger questions, and it felt like everything was more kind of about what it looked like. To say that I
Mm,
was like, quote unquote, like a great coach,
right.
because there was so much pride in it, because it meant something to me, like down deep in my heart, because I knew what the power of coaching was, not only from my own transformations through working with coaches, but also getting to, lead others through theirs and help shift other people's worlds. So I think, like, long story long, I just last year I hit the top, I guess you could say, peak of a goal that I had in mind for what being a coach was. And I was starting to feel empty. And I
Mm,
was starting to feel like this isn't what I wanted it to feel like when I got here. And simultaneously, as I'm like, do I want this anymore? What do I want? Like, where do I see myself going? That big company, like pretty much I feel like the next day or the next week or whatever was like, sorry, we're like making cuts and we're just gonna have to let you go. And I sat there and I felt this huge relief in a way because I was like, okay, whoa, like I actually don't have to wear this identity anymore. And at the same time, it was like, whoa, well, what is my identity? Like, I don't know if anybody
right.
listening can relate, but like our identities end up becoming so much of who we step into because it's what we define ourselves as. And so really this shift that I've been in since end of last year, so around like October-ish, November-ish, is really just saying, actually, does it matter that I operate as like a certain identity as a coach? Like,
Right.
do I need the title? What do I need more? Like, what do I feel fulfilled by more instead? What do I, Jesi, want? Not I, Jesi, a coach, want as a coach is climbing this ladder. What do I want? And so really it's just been me going down this deeper journey than I've ever been before. I've been listening to some of your podcasts and I love that a common thread I'm noticing is like a connection to God. And
Yeah.
that's actually something that has become, deeper for me as well. Realizing like that is so present for me and been something that I've been leaning on. Right now, I'm on this journey I never thought I would be in a whole different way, just like letting go of all the identities I thought I was and the titles and stepping into like my actual purpose.
I love that so much. And I want to go back to something you said. You said this was a goal I've had for so long, and it didn't feel like I thought it would feel.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate you bringing that up because that really was like the big pivot was this moment of being like, whoa, I like caught up with myself and was like, wait, this is not feeling good anymore. And, I think sometimes you have to feel that to be able to shift. But I think what happened is not only did it just stop feeling really like the sense of I felt alive in my work, but I realized that I didn't feel like I had control in my destiny. I felt like
Mm,
everything that I was moving towards was goals that other people were starting to set for me, or things that people were starting to tell me what success looked like if I wanted to keep climbing this ladder. And I was like, wait a second, I stopped corporate a while ago, so I didn't have to deal with that. And I'm still doing that here, but in, a different realm. So yeah, it started to feel similar to corporate, to be honest, where I felt like I had to do certain things to move in a direction that was going to get me supposedly where I wanted to go. So it was this continuous chasing. I was
right.
never like feeling like I made it or I was settled, or even when I quote unquote made it, that feeling lasted for maybe a week. And then it was like,
Mm,
okay, grind again, grind again, grind again. Cause now that I'm here, I gotta move to the next level. But when you keep doing that, it feels exhausting. And part of it was I hit burnout. I started to hit burnout and I was like, this is not like, I don't necessarily know what like my big thing at the time. I was like, I don't know what my big thing is supposed to be, but I just feel like this is not what it's supposed to feel like. So
right.
it was just a lot of yeah, just like, if I could just say it in like very basic terms, I just did not feel good. Not
Right.
in a health way, but like I knew I knew this life experience wanted me to feel more alive than I was feeling on a daily basis. And that was a problem for me because that was me going against the reason I got into this work in the first place.
Right. It's one of those things where, I resonate a lot with that as well with coaching. And so I just commend you for recognizing that it wasn't fully in alignment and moving in a different way.
Thank you. Yeah, and I think it's important to have for my own self, like to have gone through that journey. Anybody that decides to step into it and go into something more for themselves and they want that independent route, like that's beautiful. And there's so much in that for each of us. And so I think if people are feeling called to move in that direction, yes, it's going to be harder than probably people realize because you don't know what you don't know. But when you do step into it, you grow in ways you didn't even know you could either. So it's really powerful. And I look back at the last 4 years of building my business and doing everything I was doing, and it was awesome in a lot of ways. And it got me to this point, which I'm so grateful for. But it's like that chapter feels like it closed. And one thing I feel good about is like the acceptance of that and being like, okay, so I thought that was supposed to be the thing, but really that was just the stepping stones to more of the actual
I love that so much because I've seen over the years so many people that stay in unhappy relationships or careers because they don't want to look bad by changing their mind. And they like kind of like prohibit their growth by being so consumed with how it should look. And so I love how you said, I just accepted that chapter was closed.
thing.
Just so simple.
Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Something that you touched on earlier is the feeling, like
Yeah.
that fulfillment. People like you and I, we crave that in our work is to feel fulfilled and to make impact. And so what are some of those things that you're doing right now to just kind of come back into alignment and move forward in a different way?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good question. Well, I think initially I had to feel super out of alignment. I had
Hmm.
to feel super like awful in just so many ways and just feel that and just move through that and feel messy and confused and question myself. Like there was like a chapter of that while I was shifting into this space that I feel like I'm in now. But that contrast really brought me into okay, so now that we let go of like all this chaotic feeling energy, now I feel like I have more clarity to ask better questions from. And so
Mm.
as I was starting to just kind of feel a sense of clarity in my mind, and I felt like I could start receiving more like guidance and downloads and inner wisdoms and things, what I also started connecting to that I didn't quite realize is why I was feeling pulled away from a lot of the direct, like one-on-one coaching space and the capacity that I was doing it at, was because I finally realized that when you are in a constant coaching container, again, like the ones I was specifically part of, like I don't want to like crap on the coaching industry in general. Like I'm just talking from my experiences, but I realized that there's so many times where we're just so cerebral. We're just really in the mind, overthinking,
Mm,
overanalyzing, constantly gathering new information. And what I started to realize with this deep knowing was that our life is not created in our mind. Our
mm,
life is created through the way we feel, because the way that we
yes.
feel really is what inspires our actions. It's what has us wanting to, yeah, just really like move in different directions. And so I started to tap into, oh my gosh, it's not just about the mind. Like, yeah, the mind is important, but you're never going to change the mind until you get the body involved. And so have been just really practicing grounding myself a little bit every single day, um, in the body. And what I realized, I used to try to meditate first thing when I got up.
Mm,
And that always, like, sometimes it felt sticky, but I was like, no, I have to do this. Like, this is good for me. But sometimes I literally just need to like move my body or like stand up and go walk first or have a mini dance party. Or sometimes I can't sit and meditate until like 2 hours after I've got up or whatever. It's just knowing thyself
mhm,
and being easy on yourself when that knowledge of who you are and what you need comes through. So it's honestly daily practices, but I'm just consistent with tiny little movements. Like every single day, it's about how am I moving my body, but also how am I how am I looking and viewing my body? Not in a let me observe what I look like sense, but how am I seeing her as the vessel that I'm grateful to get to be in? Because the truth is, this is like, even if you live 150 years, like in the span of like all eternity, that's a blip.
right.
So we're really not here for that long. And so so what I've been doing is really sinking into the gratitude of getting to just be in this body and
Wow.
appreciating her and asking her, what do you need today? How do you
Mm,
want to move today? And it's not always a workout. To be honest, I used to be like super inflamed and not even realize it because I was pushing myself past exhaustion because I was like, no, it's good for me. So it's how can I be kinder in my body? And what I found is that when we connect to our body, we're connecting to our pleasure. And when we connect to our pleasure, that is the freaking portal to everything we want to create, especially as women. So I've just been really diving deeper into that. And I mean, that's a whole other rabbit hole.
I'm so into it. I was like, yes, say more.
That yeah, I'm so passionate about this aspect now that I think I was asleep too before.
Well, it's so interesting how it's all connected. And I feel like I'm always getting that on a deeper level all the time.
Yeah.
But one of the things I teach is to come back to the intuitive part of us and like the inner guide. I like the way that you said it though, because when you're talking about grounding in the body, it just so many things, so many directions I could go with this. But even the concept of we're not here for that long. I'm drawn to the way you said that because I recently feel like I really got that on a deep level where it actually has allowed me so much healing. It's such a rapid pace because when you really can zoom out that way and understand that like nothing in this world is forever and in a
Mm,
sense like why we're here on earth, and I know that that kind of gets into belief systems, but when you really understand like you were sent here for a purpose, that you're a part of a heavenly family, like your earthly family, and no matter how broken it is, you have such a deeper belonging. And I think for me in my life, I was always searching for belonging. And to really get that on a deep level, it's like it just allows me so much peace and so much more acceptance because when you can zoom out and be so unattached from the worldly life, then you're able to kind of see that higher purpose for yourself.
yeah, yeah. I think that the more perspective and a bigger lens we can have, the happier ultimately we can be. Because there it creates a sense of trust. At least in my world, it creates a
Right.
sense of trust of like, oh, like this really like isn't that in the scheme of things, this really isn't that big of a deal. Like actually there's a big way bigger picture and things happening, and things at play that are like totally out of my control. So why not just ride the ride a little bit more? But I don't know if you'd be open to it, but I would love to hear more. I know it's your podcast, but I would love to hear more about like that shift for you, like where you started to connect. Maybe you said more recently, like you just had this
Yes.
deeper knowing on the bigger perspective.
Yeah, so I started reading The Purpose Driven Life. It's a faith-based book by Rick Warren, and it's
Okay.
been around for years and years and years. And, one of my girlfriends started a book club and was just like, whoever wants to read this book, I never even heard of it, but I'm always just like saying yes to anything that has to do with community. And
That's
I was
why I
like,
love you.
great. I was like, purpose, let's dive deeper. And turns out it's like this faith-based book, and like it's all about our purpose like on earth. And so really that book and his teachings in that book is what pivoted and allowed me to connect to the bigger picture, because I just became like born again in like last July, so less than a year. And so it's
Mhm.
really new for me to walk publicly in faith by choice. And, because I grew up very religious, and I had a very complex relationship with it. And so over my adult life, it's been very confusing because I've always kind of had that fundamental belief in God and something greater, but I was so wounded from my experience that it really blocked me from having more of a relationship with God. And so this book has really allowed me to tap into just the fundamentals, just, like the very, very basics of how to connect and just live your life more purpose driven. And he just makes it so simple.
Thank you for sharing because that just is such proof of like when you just say yes and you follow the nods and you just lean into the things that feel good, you get it's like you get your life. You get your life
Absolutely.
from that.
Absolutely. 1,000%. And I know like you've helped me a lot with that too. So what are you most excited about right now? Because I know we've been kind of all over the place, but I know you
Yeah.
kind of started talking about what you're working on currently, but like what are you most excited about?
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm so excited that I feel like I finally have more of a concrete answer for that than I've had in the last like 6 months. Because it's just been feeling like I've been gathering pieces and just trusting. And finally, the pieces are forming. So I'm really, really honored to share, and I'll be really the first person that I'm out really sharing this with, besides like the people that are involved and my boyfriend.
Ooh.
But I'm really excited. So I what I'm starting to dive into is realizing also that what wasn't feeling the world's greatest before was I felt like as a coach, like I was just on my own little island trying to change the world by myself. And I've started to get into collaborations. And these
Ooh.
collaborations are with women in the somatic world, like diving deep into helping people move stuff through their body in a trauma-informed way, getting into breath work. And that's a whole other story because I had like tried to push that out of my life because I didn't think I was capable of facilitating rooms like that. But so I'm starting to dive into breath work. I'm getting back into my roots of yoga, and I'll be bringing everything together with these incredible women and creating these in-person retreats for women and ideally men, couples, all, we'll have all kinds of branches, but that will be, it's already been launching, but I'll be getting into my own kind of branch of it within this. Yeah, with like over the next course of the next year, bringing it to life. So yeah, so in-person retreats and all kinds of cool experiences through just really badass like healing modalities and ways to empower people to know how to empower themselves and have full trust that they have everything they need inside of them.
I love it. I absolutely love that. I can't wait to see where that goes. And it's always cracks
Ah,
me up. I feel like we always have so many parallels. Like I've been diving a lot more into mind body healing as well, just because, we're both talking about
yeah,
feeling called to do the deeper work with people, which is why I think the quote unquote coach title is challenging because it is just a little bit more surface level.
yeah. Well, I just want to acknowledge you for a second because like you inspire me every single day. I'm not on social media much lately, but whenever I am and I see your stuff pop up, I'm like, yes, like you're so in alignment. You've grown insane amounts. And I see, like, I just want you to know I see you. Like, I see you doing the deep work. And like, you're such an embodiment of everything that you believe in, like, that you preach about. Like, you preach what you live. And I think it is so awesome. And so, like, right back at you, I'm like, I can't wait to see what you do too, because you're doing the big work that I think when people are meant to shift and change this planet, it's because they're they're doing they're having to go through crazy experiences, and I could go on and on, but like having to embody the things, and you're just that you're like doing it big, and you're sharing it with the world, and you're stepping into it fiercely and bravely and in the unknown, and you're just it's so yeah, so I see you too, girl.
Thank you. That is like the best compliment you can get is to say you're like a full embodiment of what you teach. Like that is, I'm gonna let that one just sink in a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I appreciate it so much. Just to kind of put a bow on everything, I'm sure so many people can relate to that feeling of I checked the box, I got the thing, the accomplishment, and it just doesn't feel quite how I thought it was. Maybe like somebody listening is feeling like, shit, I really need to make this shift, but I have no idea where to start. Like, what would you say to that person?
Yeah. First of all, I just want like that person, if they're listening right now, I just want to like I wish I could hug them because I
Mm,
know that so much because it is a pain. But I just first and foremost, I just want to share with them like they're safe and they're exactly where they're supposed to be because
mm,
you have to feel all of that first before you can shift. And the good news is when you feel that, when you're like, ooh, this doesn't feel like I want it to feel, that's actually meaning like, okay, now we get to start changing. So it's just data. And I would say that for that person to just accept that that's how they're feeling, don't fight it, and to really just start sitting with themselves a little bit more. Maybe they have a hard time in meditation, but just start walking and thinking, or just giving some time to themselves to think, okay, I don't have to have an answer right now. I don't have to have any idea how I'm going to shift out of this, but I'm going to give myself an opportunity to sit with myself and start to trust that something else is for me. And that's what the pivot looks like. That's
mm.
really it can be messy, it's ugly, but that's my best advice. Really, it's
Yes.
like I could tell everybody like do A B C D E F G, but like that's what my steps. So it's like really you're the one that knows how to move. You just got to start connecting with the source or whatever you believe in, God, that is going to be able to provide those answers for you, or those next steps, or that path, or
Yeah.
that random connection that's going to
Right.
have, the next steps.
I love that because I think, and I am raising my hand to this too, where like I always just want the answer. I want like, what
Yeah.
is the steps? What are the steps to take to get out of this? Right. And like I've coached so many people at Crossroads, and the first thing I just always say is like, this is exciting. Like, this is
Yeah.
so exciting. And to really reframe it, because it's such a frustrating place to be when you're in it. But like, if you can really see, like, okay, like you said, the data, this is popping up for a reason. These alarms are going off to make a shift. Okay, great. And I think like that was such the perfect advice because it's like, okay, now you get to accept that. You get to grieve your expectation of what this would feel like, accept it, and really sit with that and see
Yeah.
where you're guided. Because the overanalyzer like myself that wants to just go into sometimes like fix it mode can get you just exactly in that same scenario over and over again until you really listen to the lesson that was in that experience. You can't really move and evolve and move forward with the, whatever direction you go next. Just like so perfect because it's like, let's just sit with it and see where we feel guided.
Yeah. Yeah. And really quick too, like I've had to learn the hard way. Like if you try to move faster than like the divine timing is actually ready for you to really step into that thing. So if you're kind of skipping this step, what happens is you'll find a step, right? You'll find things, but it's gonna put you back in the same place again. And that's a loop you're
Yes.
talking about. You're just gonna have to like come back to this eventually. So you might as well you might as well do it now. But I also really quick, if it's okay,
Yeah.
I found this was not quote, but somebody posted this on social media and it was in their caption. And I don't even know why I read it, but I felt like it was just so like aligned to like where I'm at in this journey. And I was like, I don't think I can say it better. And I thought maybe this
Yes.
would be helpful for people feeling connected to this. Essentially, it just says, when you finally come home to your own heart, to self-love, to surrender, you no longer attach value to hard. You no longer seek ego identity from being a survivor, a badass, a guy or girl. When you come home to self-love and a true acceptance of unconditional love, you stop going to war with yourself. You stop needing to prove something to yourself. Stop trying to see what you're made of. You already know you're made of love. I just like really fuck with that.
I love it. Oh, well, thank you so much for just sharing your journey. And I love anytime I get to talk to you
Yeah.
and connect with
Same.
you. Yes. All right. Well, we will talk soon.
Thank you so much.